Hey, what's up, guys? Mike Patrick. In this video, I want you to listen really closely because if you do, this will be a really classic video for you guys that will open up the doors to interpretation of life, okay? This is going to be one of those videos that once you see what I'm talking about, you'll never be able to unsee it, okay? Now, this is going to kind of blend with, like all my videos, they blend with each other and they feed off of each other, okay? Now look, so I'm going to get right into it without further ado. Useless eaters, okay? Now, I never been big on breaking down words and things like that, but I am very big on etymology and I am very big on words and what they could really mean and different ways of listening to words and understanding words and defining words, okay? Now look, useless eaters, okay? Now we know what useless eater is. Off the top of our head, we think of a person and we look at that word and we think of people who eat, you know what I mean? But they're useless in society, or they're useless. They're mouths that have to be fed, but they're not making a contribution, okay? But then look at the word like this, or look at the phrase like this. Use less eaters. Use less. People that you're able to use less of, okay? Now you say, well, everybody has to be you. Now, this is the thing. We don't look at it this way, though, but I play devil's advocate a lot of my videos. All right. So we all got to be used, though. I mean, that's just the way that the world is. That's just life. We all got to be used by somebody, and that's how the world get along, and that's how we have a society. You know what I mean? When we go to work, the people who at the job are being used by the people over them. You know what I mean? And the people that have to utilize whatever it is that where I work at. So if I work at a store, whoever comes in and got to buy the goods, they're using the workers, you know what I mean, in order to be able to buy the goods. The people who over top of the workers are using them in order to get the job done and to be able to provide whatever needs to be provided to the rest of the population and the rest of the world and the rest of the customers, whatever have you. You get the point? You see what I mean? So we all being used, and then they being used by somebody, and then they're being used by somebody. We're all being used, right? And so therefore, you know what I mean? If you're being used less, you're not being used by nobody, which means you're no good to other people, okay? Now, so that's playing devil's advocate. That's how most of you guys probably would think, and probably think that's the correct way of thinking. And because you've been bred, see, nobody broke it down like that or said that to you, but that's just the way in society we've been conditioned. That's the way that the world has operated, to where by the time you get to a certain age and have a certain level of experience, that understanding goes without being said, right? So what happens, right? At the end of the day, you have to think about this. There's people at the top, maybe not the tip top. See, there's always a top on top of the top, okay? But for the sake of the average human being, right? For who the average person, would think is at the top. So we'll say the wealthy billionaires of the world. Most of them, you probably wouldn't be able to recognize their face, but they give us a few of them, you know, that's popular enough that you can say, okay, if I seen him out in the street, I would know who he is. You know what I mean? Like the Bill Gateses, or the Warren Buffetts, or the Elon Musk. You know what I mean? People like that. For the hip hop culture, the Dr. Dre's, the Jay-Z's, okay, things like that, right? But those are more so new billionaires. But I'm talking about the old money guys. You know what I mean? You may have a few of those guys that you can see them out and about and you'll know their face, but then you got the rest of them who you'll never even know who they were. Now, they would be considered useless eaters Because guess what? Especially if when the ones that come from old money, they're not billionaires within the recent, recent history, within the last few years or whatever, like a Jay-Z or a Kanye or somebody like that, or Puffy. They're old money. And so they've been useless eaters for a long time. Now hear me out, because I'm not disrespecting these guys, okay? Because I think they got it right in some regards. You know what I mean? And so they're useless eaters to the point where they're not getting out working nobody's job, right? They're not getting out doing anything for anybody firsthand. Meaning that most of us will find no value for them in our life, right? For example, if you a lady on the side of the road, 9 times out of 10, Warren Buffett or Jay-Z or somebody like that is never going to help you with changing your tire on the side of the road, right? 9 times out of 10, Jay-Z is not going to be working at, or Warren Buffett is not going to be working at any grocery store that you got to go to in order to be able to get groceries to be able to feed your family. Neither one of these guys are going to be on the opposite end of a telephone call when you have to make some type of call to a credit card company or some type of company. You know how it is when you got to pay your bills, whoever you got to be on the other end of the phone with, right, to get help in order to get things done. Excuse me. They're not going to be on the other end of those calls, okay? Right? So most of these type of people are going to be useless to the average person. Now hear me out. You're going to say, well, no, because these people have enough money and power and influence to where they are useful, because guess what? They don't have to actually do anything firsthand, because they can just set up other people to be able to do things for them, giving other people purpose. Setting up, now listen, this is when it gets really important to understand. This is going to be the paradigm shaker right here. Setting up a blueprint that gives other people the ability to be able to have purpose, okay? And then therefore they are no longer able to be useless eaters. Now you have something that you have to do, because a blueprint has been set up for you, and I can interject you into that blueprint, okay? So you can do everything that needs to be done, okay, within a blueprint and a system and a program and a society that I have set up, okay? I give you a purpose within it. I give you a job within it. I give you a use within it. I give you something to do to kill your time here on earth within it, okay? Which in turn feeds your natural ego, something that you were created to have as a human being, an ego. Because you all are born here not knowing what the heck you doing here. You just pop up here on this planet. You pop up here on Earth, useless as a baby. Can't do anything for yourself. Then as you grow, you're being groomed, you're being prepped, you're being molded to be useful to somebody else. You're basically being born to be a slave. Most people. To be prepped, you got a little bit of time from 0 to, and this varies to different people. So on average, 0 to 18, right? To kind of, you know what I mean? Have fun, have some experience, not live as a slave as much. But then after that, you know what I mean? Then even within those years, you're being prepped, molded, and sculpted and shaped in order to be somebody that's going to have to be of use to somebody else, okay? Now, like I was saying, with those guys, if you set up the blueprint, I'm going to keep saying that because this is the part that needs to stick. You set up the blueprint. You set up the program. You set up the plan. for all those other people who don't know why they're here, who need a purpose, who ego needs them to be something and somebody, because deep down at the core of them, they have no point and no purpose of being here. So if I can give you one, then on top of giving you that, this is the other very important part that needs to be documented. On top of giving you that, right, giving you that purpose, I give you band-aids, I give you drugs, I give you patches, so to speak. And I said drugs as an example of, I give you something to alleviate the pain, or I say a patch or a band-aid, something to cover something, a wound that hasn't healed yet, or that needs to be healed. So I'm giving you something to address, to not actually address what the bigger issue is, but just something to soothe the pain, to get you along in life. Make sense? So I give you a purpose. I give you an ego. The ego needs a purpose, okay? And depending on what your purpose end up being in life, that dictates whether your drug is a good drug. So for example, let's just use the modern American culture, right? We value, like, athletes, entertainers, basically athletes, entertainers. Not because we almost don't even really value that much just people who just flat out rich, but they don't have any so-called clout, no fame to go along with it. That's kind of part of it. We've been prepped in this in America to kind of look for attention and fame as well. You know what I mean? Almost to the point where some people would probably take fame and attention over actual money. You know what I mean? Actually being rich and wealthy. You see what I mean? Because that's the way that certain demographics have been, their ego have been shaped in a form to where some people seek attention and importance more, want to feel important. Some people, they, you know what I mean, depending on how they was raised, or, their demographic and what's normal from an epigenetic standpoint within, other generations, previous generations, if they haven't been in a position where they had a reason to have low self-esteem, then they might just take the money. They might not need, they might be secure enough to where they don't need the attention and the fame. But for a lot of people, that's why for a person, if you've been neglected your whole life, then you might take that fame and that attention and that clout over the money, because that's your deep hole, that's your deep void, that's your deep insecurity, you know what I mean, of not having attention, and you know what I mean, and not feeling important. So you may take that, you see what I mean? But somebody who doesn't have that issue, who's more secure with themselves, they might just say, hell, give me the money and I don't want the fame. You see what I mean? So that's just another, good point to make, you know what I mean? But not to deviate too far, but it's all relative. Excuse me, guys. It's that time of the year. And so, man, I think I just dropped some jewels already that maybe nothing else has to be said. But so just kind of reiterating, and I'll see what I can build on top of it. The important part was people setting up a society and a blueprint and a program and a structure for that civilization, knowing that civilization are a bunch of life forms that are born with no understanding of purpose, nothing to do, okay? Not knowing what to seek. So therefore, you give them a purpose. You give them something to do, to feed their ego, okay? And then, therefore, you can uphold a system and have people doing something within that system, and have their ego thinking that they're the eaters. They're the ones that are useful because they can take hold to a certain purpose, a certain job within this system, and then they can carry it out, and then they can give themselves a pat on the back, the ego. They have a purpose. You see what I'm saying? They're fulfilling their purpose, and that gives them that band-aid, that crutch that they need to carry on throughout life to make themselves feel good while they're here. You know what I mean? And then so they can eventually just die one day, and then their soul gets recycled so they can do it all over again. Then you have those people who, like I said, every once in a while you'll have somebody who can wake up, or who it might be something else to them that they can understand all this, like how I'm verbalizing it right now. So many people, or it's enough people who might feel this way, but don't have no way of verbalizing it, understanding it in their mind. They just have a certain feeling that something ain't right, but they don't know how to verbalize it like this. They don't know how to put their words together like this. You know what I'm saying? So I'm doing this video for those people. And so many people might know something is up, or they might get it, but they need to hear something like this to make it really stick and be like, that's exact. You know what? That makes sense. You see what I'm saying? And then some people just don't have a clue of what they're wrapped up in and don't care. But if they hear something like this, it might spark something within them and wake them up. Okay? But it's that ego, man. It's that ego that tells you that you somebody, that you going out doing this, you going out doing that. I'm a man. I'm a man. I go out. You know what I mean? I go and get mine. I hustle. I work. You know what I mean? You feel like you have a purpose. You see what I'm saying? You feel like you have a purpose, and you're patting yourself on your back, which is the ego. You see what I'm saying? So you were born with the ego. They know that. You know, the ones that are smarter than you, per se, know that. The ones who set everything up, the real useless eaters who can dictate and manipulate you enough, you see what I'm saying, understand you enough to be able to manipulate and use you so they can sit back and not have to do much or do anything, but keep you under a certain paradigm and a certain mind frame so they can continue to live the way that they got you thinking is the wrong way to live. Because if you just sat around getting anything you wanted, right, and you didn't have to lift a finger to do it, you just had other people providing it for you or doing stuff for you, you got the ship running so tight that you got everybody else doing everything for you while you can sit back and eat whatever you want, have all your time to do whatever you want and things like that. You see what I mean? But you wouldn't see the average person to look at that like, you know, who think they can live like that without having to go out here and do this and do that? You see what I mean? So this is the thing, guys. Don't be so as you evolve and do the work, stuff like this starts to come to you more. You shed that part, that aspect of your ego, or you shed that ego, so you won't be patting yourself on the back so much for feeling like you have a purpose, because that's that void there. That's that overcompensation. You know what I mean? You're just a human. You just a man. You just a woman, okay? And you really don't know your real deep purpose. You really don't know the real meaning of life, or if there even really is one. And were you just created just to be a slave, just to be manipulated, to keep a system going, but something that may be a higher perspective or a higher life form than you, and to uphold their way of life? Are you just a useful tool? You see what I'm saying? And some of you, if you have a soul and you can think deep enough, you see what I mean? Some of you kind of deep down, you may know that or feel the potential of that. You know what I mean? But you just gotta keep going. So therefore, you choose the thinking. You choose the paradigm of we all born. We got to do something while we here. I found my purpose, whatever it may be. Some of you may feel like you have a glorious purpose. Some of you may feel like, I can't believe I was just born just to do this, to end up just working at this job, paycheck to paycheck or something like that, just to be able to pay these bills and to scrape by and deal with the stuff that here and there life and that you have to deal with, be it death of people you love, people coming in and out of your life, things coming in and different situations coming in and out of your life just for you to get to a certain age, die, and then be recycled and do it all over again. You see what I'm saying? Like I said, some of you may hit the jackpot, get lucky, and whatever your purpose is within this society, it's a good enough drug. It's a good enough Band-Aid to where you can kind of coast through life. Well, hey, I got money, I got fame. It's a good drug. At least I can, even though I don't really have no real purpose. You see what I'm saying? Beyond, you know what I mean, this existence, but I got enough Band-Aids here. You know what I mean? I can get things that I want. I can eat the foods that I want. I can experience, I can do certain things. You know what I mean? In this life, that's a good enough Band-Aid, a good enough drug, a good enough narcotic. You know what I mean? Intoxicant. You know what I mean? If that's a word. Intoxicant. You know what I mean? To be able to carry me over until eventually one day you just gonna die anyway, and then recycled again. And hopefully you get, you pick the right number again. So hopefully, man, I know that this was a real good video right here, man. A really good point to open up that paradigm, because like I said, it helps with that void and understanding when you just hear something like this, because for a lot of you guys, it might help wake you up altogether. And for a lot of you guys, it may help fill that void, or at least give it some context. You know what I mean? Then you can go from there. That void that you feel when you just when you wondering like, what's the purpose? Oh, I wanted to add this too to this video, because what does it all come to though? What does it? Okay, so are we talking about stuff like this just to be talking about it, just to be able to say, oh, you so intellectual that you did figure that out, or you figured something out, you brought something to the table that's not commonly expressed or seen about life and the possibilities of our existence. But even if this is the truth, if this happens to be a truth, now how can we build on it? How do we resolve? I mean, how do we resolve this problem? If this is a problem, right? Well, I think I think that is part of it. Now I'm gonna try to talk about it from a different perspective. Let's say the Most High, Elohim, God, whoever you guys believe in as God, right? I think there is a purpose for us. I don't think all of us are the same down here. I don't think all of us are at the same point of evolution of our soul. And I think this is a big school to a certain degree. Now I'm talking about this in a different context. This kind of is a big school where you are meant to evolve and graduate. Some people might be only in the first grade. Some people might be in the 12th, getting ready to graduate. When you start talking like this, you probably a 12th grader. Make sense? If all this sounds crazy to you, or you have no interest in it, or it's pointless, you just, let me just go out here. I just want to get a job. I just want to do this. I just want to get money, whatever. You probably like a second, third grader. You're probably still young from the whole soul aspect of it. And so that's not judgment. Everybody's where they're at. And the thing is, guys, I think it's a point where when you start talking like this, you're graduating, you're evolving. And once you start tapping into certain paradigms and certain questions and ways of looking at the life, it alters your perception, it alters your dimension, it alters your reality. You become more aware, and you are made aware. No, other people are aware of you. The Most High becomes more aware of you. Okay, I'm always trying to get my words just right. And the context of the words, and using them right, because I come from an ebonics culture myself, so you know what I mean. it's a lot of ways that I talk when I'm not on camera, you know, and people can understand me. But I gotta always you gotta always remember when you're talking on camera like this, you're trying to be accessible and understood by different walks of life and many different types of people. So you're trying to be as proper and as correct as possible. So yeah, so like you graduating, and therefore you become, you know, more accessible, and the Most High sees that light. He see that change, and he does start to pull the way of thinking, the way that you think up. He changes your dimension, your reality, your paradigm as you help change yourself, because this is nobody's doing it for you. But look at the Most High as like a teacher that recognizes what you're doing. You know what I mean? And see where you at, and applauds you for that, and praises you're passing, if you passing the test or you passing the grade to move on to the next level. Are you evolving? So I think a lot of people that are in a lot of great positions, you know, they may have this, like the type of stuff I'm talking about right now is probably the stuff that they teach in secret societies. You know what I mean? And things like that, guys. It's all just enlightenment. This is the way I'm talking. This is enlightenment. Then you put yourself in a position that perhaps you earned a spot to live a certain type of lifestyle, to become a useless eater. You know what I mean? But in the good way, not the way that some people, not the way that's looked down upon. You know what I mean? But yeah, guys, because at the end of the day, now, if you look at the evolved race, now you're gonna start talking. But let's talk in theory of aliens and things like that. Now we're just using this as an example. You know what I mean? Let's say aliens. I think they had like different types of civilizations. Let's say when you get to like a type, and then the more that you go up is the more advanced of the civilization. So like if you got to like a type, I think one of the highest levels of civilization they talk about is like type 7 civilization or something. When you get to that point, guys, they all will probably be useless eaters, right? It would be no point. You would be so evolved. It would be no point of not having to. I ain't say that you wouldn't, but it would be no point of having to use. You wouldn't be reliant or dependent on a lesser life form in order to exalt your life, or for you to be able to live a certain type of lifestyle. You see what I mean? You would probably create things or have things that might not have a soul. You wouldn't have to sacrifice a soul. You might create things without a soul to be able to fulfill the purposes and the needs that you need in order to sustain a certain type of life, that an existence that you want. But you wouldn't necessarily have to use real souls. You know what I mean? And you know, perhaps you wouldn't even have to eat. Perhaps all the little manual stuff that we need here, even when it comes to our life and survival, what we consider manual for our life and survival, having to eat, breathe, you know, do everything manually, walk, you know, things like that. A lot of stuff that we consider supernatural, perhaps they could do that. Perhaps they evolved to a point where all that stuff, you know, perhaps they don't have to sleep, drink water. You see what I mean? All this type of stuff that makes our lives, you know, it all has relation to why we live the way we live. You know what I mean? Because you got to eat, right? You got to sleep. You got to, you got to do all this stuff, which in turns it influences other decisions that have to be made, and the way that we live. You see what I mean? So hopefully you guys get my point. This was a real good video. And you get to that point where you will be a useless eater. You don't even have to eat. But the idea, while you in this body, those people who get to a level, that's why, like, maybe perhaps a lot of the homeless people are evolved, could be. See, I think it's done. It depends on in which way you do. A lot of homeless people and stuff may be on drugs, but see, things like that alter your mind. See, I'm not saying from a worldly point of view, I'm not saying that these things are right or that somebody should go out and try to be homeless and try to be a drug addict and stuff like that. But once you remove your humanity and you look at things spiritually and metaphysically, you know, these people take certain drugs and stuff to alter their mind frame, and you don't know in what way and how it changes their outlook and their perception. And they become useless eaters, so to speak, and today evolve. Because really, at the end of the day, man, all we should ever really have to do is just live. That's all we should have to do. I know people ain't going to agree with that, don't like it, and stuff like that, or just going to say that, yeah, I mean, I understand that, but we got to do this and we got to do that. Okay, and I understand that part too. You know what I mean? But really, all we should have to do is just live. We all should be useless eaters. We all should be able to just eat, you know what I mean, and just chill and just, you know, express maybe love and experience life and everything around us, and to put more energy into evolving. You see what I mean? To, like I said, to get to the point where you are a type 7 civilization. I mean, now you don't have to eat. You figure you got time to figure things out. You see what I'm saying? But it's something that's in between the highest up and the lowest of the low, that want to keep you trapped and keep you, because maybe they can't go but so high, but they got to keep you underneath them. So if everybody evolves past them, you see what I mean, then it makes things harder for them, obviously. You see what I mean? And they can't use you anymore. You see what I mean? And so they would just prefer for you to, you know, every now and then somebody can squeeze through, but for the most part, keep humanity's souls in a cycle, keeping them doing it over and over again. And then we give them enough drugs. We make enough of them. We feed enough of their egos to make them think that they're happy and that they have purpose and things like that, to keep them upholding this system and this program and the society, you know what I mean, and keep them doing it over and over again. But I think also what happens is, and this is happening now, it comes a point where that those Band-Aids and those drugs, those narcotics, is not fulfilling people anymore. Hence, you have a lot of celebrities and people who you think supposed to have it all, celebrities and rich people and stuff like that, who still are unhappy, who are doing things that contradict them being who they are supposed to be. You know what I mean? In the position that they're supposed to be in. You thinking somebody's rich, wealthy, famous, and all this, and influential. Well, why are they suicidal? Or why have they committed suicide? Why are they on drugs, trying to kill themselves slowly, things like that. And because it's showing that we're reaching a pinnacle where these Band-Aids and narcotics aren't working no more. You plateau with it. It's just like drugs, where after a while you drinking your alcohol so long that it no longer gets you drunk. You plateau. You see what I mean? That whatever it is that you smoking or whatever drug you taking, it doesn't give you that escape no more. You just plateau. And now you just feel normal and you miserable because now you need something else that's going to give you that dopamine, or give you that feeling of contentment. You see what I mean? Until you feel that real void. All right, guys. Hopefully this was good. Peace.